Good afternoon and welcome to the latest in our Platform Insight interview series. This is another one of our focuses on Central and Eastern Europe in the run-up to our Central and Eastern Europe event taking place in Vienna on the 30th of April. I'm delighted to have some really expert opinion on this interview looking at Czechia, the Czech Republic, all of whom will be with us in Vienna as well. So what I'm going to ask you to do, guys, is I'm going to quickly go round one by one in the area of my screen and ask you to give a little introduction of yourself, your name, your company, and what your background is in digital infrastructure and data centers. So I'm going to start with Lars over on my right-hand side.
Well, thanks, Nicola. My name is Lars Riegel. I'm a partner in Arthur D. Little and globally responsible for the private equity TMT activities of our firm. In that instance, we're supporting infrastructure investors and private equity funds in buying and selling data centers and also later on in the post-deal value creation. I did the first project in data centers in 2008, sizing the German enterprise colocation market. Yeah, happy to be here.
Fantastic, thank you for joining us. And down to Evseny.
Hi, my name is Evgenia Tohame, and I'm representing today. I'm a vice president of the Czech and Slovakian Digital Infrastructure Association. The association was created end of the last year. Nevertheless, we are already members of EU DCA, so it's European Data Center Association. It also helps you to understand that it's not only digital infrastructure, it's data centers with digital infrastructure. My personal background is from digital infrastructure. I'm putting together the network ideas, and I'm a project manager for the digital infrastructure projects. It's everything about smart grid, everything about capacity, everything about connection.
Great
I can answer these questions.
You're representing the whole of the infrastructure industry across two really exciting
Yes.
countries, so it's fabulous that you could join us. Now we have two
Thank you
Milos
very much
on the
for
call,
invitation.
so I'm going to go to Milos M, as in Milos Marjanovic.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Milos Marjanovic. I'm a manager at Arthur D. Little, working together with Lars and Martin, who are also on this call. I've been focusing on data centers for the past couple of years and done, I think now, over 30 projects in data center space, including transactions in Europe, in Eastern Europe, but also in America and APAC. I've also worked in Czech Republic together with colleagues on this call. Yeah, happy to share my opinion. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. So Milos.
Yeah, thank you. Milos Mastník. I'm the CEO of CRA, which is Czech Radio Communications Company. We are an infrastructure company providing broadcasting services, but primarily, and during the last couple of years, focusing on running our own data centers, running cloud business, and recently starting to provide GPU as a service in few of our data centers. I've been in the telco business for more than 25 years.
Welcome. Lots and lots of history behind you there. And I believe you're now, CRA is the largest cloud provider in Czechia?
Of course, we are not comparing ourselves to hyperscalers, but next to other companies providing private cloud, yes, we are the biggest one at this moment.
Fantastic. Great to have you on board here. And last but not least, Martin.
Good to meet you all. My name is Martin Hanuschka. I'm a principal at Arthur D. Little with more than 10 years of experience in the consulting business. And my core focus is actually on digital infrastructure. I've done several projects focusing on that sector in the Czech Republic in terms of data centers, not necessarily in the market, but more in the region, talking about Poland and so forth. Happy to meet you. Happy to share insights.
Fantastic. And I'll come on to some of the projects. I've been doing my research and I've seen some of the publications that you've been involved in that are very relevant to this discussion. So we'll come on to that a bit later on. But so within the region, obviously with Central and Eastern Europe, it's very frustrating because a lot of the, look, there's going to be growth across the region and we talk about it from a regional perspective, not necessarily recognising that there's individual countries within that region all at various stages of growth. The exciting thing for Czechia, Czech Republic, is that in terms of the countries within the region, it's certainly up there in terms of the projected growth over the next sort of 5 years. And I believe the last figures I looked at is something between 11.4 to 12% compound annual growth rate between now and 2028, which, you know, is fantastic. But where do you see this growth coming from across the region? I'm going to start with Milos from CRA, because obviously with that 20-year history from a broadcasting and then the ICT side, you've seen this as it's been coming up through the pipeline for over 2 decades.
Yeah, correct. I think that if you look at some of the numbers, we are still a bit behind the EU average and standards in terms of utilization of data centers and cloud. So naturally, there is no reason why we should not be heading that direction, which is the main driver for the growth. So some of the indicators, such as square meters of data center per company or energy spent per company, those are the indicators that simply show us that the growth should be there. And I give you an example that actually 2 weeks ago, we deployed the newest NVIDIA Blackwell card in the country, and we were able to sell it within a week. In a week, it was gone, and there are more companies in a queue that like to have the capacity. So apparently, there's a huge demand. We also employed a dedicated person who sits in London and start to offer our new data center project. It looks like it will be actually sold out even before we open it. So the demand is clearly there.
Wow. And Lars, you seem to be flashing yellow. I'm not sure if that means your hand's up.
I have not actively raised the hand, no. But I mean, I'm happy to also comment. From a broader European perspective, we see obviously domestic demand in Czech Republic and some of the neighboring countries evolving continuously. So cloud usage is increasing, as are, let's say, the enterprise colocation use cases. So there is a steady increase of demand, and it's probably fair to say that on the hyperscaler side, let's say the supply in Czech Republic is currently a little bit behind expectations. So we would have actually expected some of the hyperscalers to open up campuses and more hyperscale data centers to open up. It's mostly still served from FLAP-D markets. But that trend is going to change soon, and we are quite excited about the supply and demand prospects in Czech Republic in the next 3 to 4 years.
And I believe Milos Marjanovic also has his hand up.
Yeah, so the market in general for Eastern Europe has been changing over the past few years, right? Like if you talk about 4 or 5 years ago, it was still talk about everything being served out of Frankfurt, etc. And now the markets are starting to kind of fight between themselves who is going to be the CE leader. And in that front, positioning, just pure positioning of Czech Republic is very well maintained from a perspective that it's right in the middle. The connectivity is there. There is like now direct connection to the DKIX. In general, the NICS internet exchange is super important factor in this. So the expectation is that over the coming period, the demand will likely go, especially also the interest from hyperscalers. Now, the main question remains whether the local regulation government and the grid is able to keep up to actually fuel and give the tailwind towards that demand. Because as always, like there was a Microsoft announced project which was kind of stalled because of the difficulties with the permitting in 2023. So basically the local support that is now waking up to reinforcing the grid to potentially expediting the permitting will be like a key thing that can enable this growth to go even further than 12%, as you said.
And we're going to come to Evgeny now, because I know one of those you've mentioned there, the networks and that proximity to Frankfurt. And I think one of the things that certainly your country has going for it over and above some of the other countries within the region is that very, very dense fibre network, and obviously really, really, really low latency between Czechia, and of course that financial institution hub of Frankfurt. So, Evgeny, do you think, certainly from your members' perspectives, that is having a really positive impact on the interest coming in, the external interest as opposed to the internal?
Yeah, actually, when we think about sovereignty, that is actually the most important topic now. So it's a question: do we want to be focused only on external commerce, or like on our capacity and on our demand, local demand? The truth is always in the middle. We cannot only say that we will wait for Microsoft to come back to us. And by the way, it just didn't go anywhere away, just chose another country. It doesn't mean that they're still looking for something. But there was the momentum when Poland had big priority, and we know whom to look at and whom to learn from, maybe a little bit. Also, we have a lot of internal projects that we want to develop. I guess Miloš Masník can speak more about it as well. And otherwise, it's a mixture of everything. It's, if we compare FLAPD projects that are coming now to the second tier, that it's mainly Poland and Czech Republic. So we have a big future. We can have a lot of investments. Nevertheless, Czech Republic and Poland together have the same problem now. It's the decarbonization. We cannot have the same energy supply like we used to have. But again, there is a lot of new projects that are not only reflecting the current situation, but think about the future. So I have a very positive ideas about our future, and I'm pretty sure that, unfortunately I cannot speak for Slovakia about the same thing, with the same positivity, but I'm pretty sure that now it's a good time for investments in the Czech Republic, the digital infrastructure and data centers.
I'm going to throw this one out. This is open-ended, and I don't mind who jumps in. I'm sure all of you are going to have a comment on this one. But this obsession with attracting hyperscalers, now this has been one of my own soapboxes for quite some time. The co-location market is still there, it's still active. With things like edge infrastructure, with everything else, it's becoming more important. There has been this obsession with hyperscalers and with a country's growth being judged on whether there is a hyperscaler presence, whether that is in somebody else's facility or whether that is their own build, and these mega campuses, that a country is judged on whether that's there or not. Do you agree with that perspective? Who's going to jump on that one first? Martin, you've got insight into this.
I do have some insights, but potentially on this one, Miloš or Lars have more international experience that we can draw also some conclusions for the Czech market.
Look, it's an ecosystem play in general, right? Like this, it's a very similar story with Madrid and Milan in general. So when that hyperscaler boosts and comes and starts to promote their services, it also has a tailwind towards enterprise colo. Of course, enterprise colo is one of the most important parts of the market, especially with data sovereignty and everything. But it's not the only thing that fuels growth, but it's time shown in the previous market that it gives a big boost and tailwind towards both markets, enterprise colo and hyperscaler together. So there is for sure room to grow, and there has been a lot of countries that has grown from the perspective of deploying enterprise colo. However, typically if you want to grow faster, attracting an ecosystem play and then connecting to, I don't know, cloud on-ramp or at least cloud region, if not a availability zone from a Microsoft, AWS or Google, is definitely gonna help. It's not gonna make it worse, but obviously there is market without it as well.
Yeah, maybe I can also complement there a little bit. So indeed, once it's a network effect. So once one hyperscaler is there, the others are following, and the more data centers you have in a certain region, the more want to go there. And so it's probably fair to say that in Czech Republic, we might have expected the first larger hyperscale presence to have happened earlier. We believe that it's really the time is ripe. And as Evgenia has pointed out, then we will see more growth, which also brings quite a bit of value creation for the construction sector, for the telecom sector, for the energy sector. So it's going to happen very soon. That's our perspective.
Yeah. And just one small thing to add as well. What is very important, it's kind of like a chicken or the egg question, right? Do they first come and do you serve? But typically what happens in some of these markets is if you have some of the deployments by large players signaling that there is an interest in the market, for example, what CRA is doing and what other big announcements are doing in the market, this then also attracts ecosystem from around, because like building from scratch, and everybody's kind of expecting much quicker RFS timelines and everything. So like having people build to some extent speculatively or build to attract people and attract ecosystem is going to be a powerful play.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say that I agree with Milos that actually hyperscales are not like 100% necessary, right? But building a hyperscale also shows to all other possible investors, or building like anything that we will say like HPC, whatever, like a big project, it sounds different and it brings like trustability to the country, to the ecosystem, how it works together, and be sure that everybody will come and see with a very big binocular what has happened, what were the problems, what were the benefits. So it's I guess now it's time, much better than it was in 2023, but we have already big projects like CRA, for example, right? And because the way now it's very, I don't want to say in fashion, but it's really practical to build everything modular way, like SMRs, modular buildings, modular manufacturing, modular data centers, modular capacity. It allows projects to be actually moving without waiting for the final stage. And I think like it's not only about hyperscales, yes, or hyperscales, no. It's about technology, yes, or technology, no. Like ability to be agile, all this kind of stuff. So hyperscales is not only like the only way, right?
I'd be really interested in getting Milos CRA's opinion on this one.
Well, just like everything, the coin has two sides. It's a fact that none of the hyperscaler is currently present in our country, which is an opportunity for the future. At the same time, we do see a trend of this sort of repatriation because of the behavior of US administration. The companies starting to ask, where physically is my data store? Do I really want to go with the hyperscaler, and not being certain what happens if actually those companies are asked to give the data to someone else? I mean, the US administration. So we are actually seeing one opportunity that the hyperscalers need to come to the country and probably physically store some of the data to get more business. But at the same time, we are getting extra business on cloud and DC because the companies simply want to come back and want to be certain where the data is.
Yeah, that makes total sense. We can't have a discussion about any country at the moment and talking about build or new build or attracting hyperscalers without talking about energy. It's just one of those things. And one of the factors that keeps coming up as to why there's a lot of investor interest and operator interest in coming into Central and Eastern European countries is because obviously of the energy issues within Western Europe and traditional hubs. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't still issues within each of these countries. You know, I believe within Prague, which has over 75% of your current stock for co-location in particular, it can now take years to get that energy there. Does that mean that we've got to have government involvement with that, or is it about moving that infrastructure into other less known about areas?
Well, you can, if you look only to GPU as a service, it doesn't matter where actually that is coming from. You can have it anywhere in the middle of the forest. If we talk about commercial DCs, then it needs to be located. That's why you have DFLAP actually. So it needs to be somewhere close to the city center. However, it's obvious that we were kind of lucky to foresee this in advance. So now we have some energy guaranteed. It's not such an issue just like in DFLAP, where it's very difficult to get extra energy. But of course, if you go into detail, there are many investors that believe that they do have the land and they have the energy. But if you go into detail, it's usually only one line. For example, you need two parallel independent lines and so on. So it takes time. It takes time, and you need to plan in advance. But I believe in the region of Central and Eastern Europe, the energy is available, but you need to plan in advance. You need to, pre-order, and you need to take care of all those, administration details and obstacles that they are definitely there.
I would maybe add that indeed there's good profile that the Czech Republic has and can be proud of, given the relatively strong position of nuclear power in the country, which of course is a strength also for the data center business, and now the government actively pursuing strategies to become even more involved in that area, planning to potentially even invest more money into the nuclear expansion. So from that perspective, I think that the market has definitely good potential going forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree about nuclear, since I'm also like a professional in this. Sorry. Actually, the situation is absolutely great with having already working 2 power plants and having two more capacity building. Yes, the Czech Republic has an absolutely gorgeous option to be to stay actually one of the nuclear powers, like together with France, for example, right? The situation with SMR that our Czech Republic develops now together with Rolls-Royce, I guess it's difficult to compare Czech Republic with Poland, but still, our technology, or our future technology, is created outside of US, first thing. Second, we are part of the development process, so we will have a patent for that. And now the most important is the speed of the application. So if we will, that's what our role as a trade association as well is, to speak to the ministers, to make sure that data center are now part of the critical infrastructure. So to have priority in being connected to the grid. That's one of the main points. What we are actually on the agenda. What we're pushing now, right?
And it's shown time and time again that makes such a difference. If you look at countries, even like London, it took a huge amount of time within the UK, but that government support and that priority, certainly from the investor's perspective, shoots a country straight up in terms of its attractiveness.
Yeah, I think there were really good steps made already, and that's why I will just say again, and now it's time for bringing more money, bringing more investment, since now it's the good option with like the good way to join the capacity. The other thing is when you asked about Prague, non-Prague, I spoke about the decarbonization process, right? So we're closing the coal miners, and those are the brown fields that are now in development. So brownfields versus greenfields. You understand where the money needs to flow to. There is also a good connection with the grid. The connection to the infrastructure. Again, if we speak about supercomputers, HPC, then it's not critical. If it will be, for example, the internet providers, then I'm not sure that these brownfields are good for that, but for supercomputers is pretty ideal place. So it's now about like being sure that nothing is missing, and in few years, in like less than a decade, I'm pretty sure it will look absolutely different.
I'm going to direct this to the Arthur D. Little team here, just about that government support and that, you know, prioritising and having this infrastructure as part of critical national infrastructure. How does that impact on investor sentiment going into a country?
Yeah, so this is crucial, especially from the perspective of like permitting and like energy connections are the two of the biggest bottleneck of actually going to the country. So signaling that the data centers are welcome within a country is typically where data centers would be located. Even on a local government level, for example, if you look at Spain and Aragon region, like signaling that government is ready to take in the data centers, to be welcoming, to expedite the process. So it's not like 2 years, but it's actually, I don't know, 6 months to a year. This is critical, and we see this becoming more and more important as the RFS dates were previously typically, I don't know, 2 to 3 years you can make stuff. Now things are moving so quickly that it's even more important that you know that the government is behind it, and that when you invest, you're not likely to reach a critical deadlock with the permitting process.
And from the CRA perspective, I mean, obviously you've got a long history with broadcasting, with public, so there's been a lot of policy stuff that's run throughout the whole history of the company. Are you finding now that that support is really helping?
Well, obviously, it's an advantage. It's of course it's an advantage being part of the state critical infrastructure. That's clear. It's an advantage to have experience with running infrastructure, and the advantage is that we started quite some time ago, knowing that the permitting process is so long in this country, unfortunately. But we've gone through everything, so now we are building. So
Exciting times.
yeah, sure, absolutely.
There's also, you know, there's also the thing about an individual country's growth, and there's the supply and the demand side. But there's also, I think, a bit of a vying going on with sort of Poland, Czech Republic, Romania to try and take that spot as a regional hub for that bridge between Western Europe and Eastern Europe. What do you think it's going to take for Czech Republic to actually take that spot as a regional hub rather than a local market?
Of course, it's about the price of energy. That's one of the key drivers. And you can choose few strategies. We are choosing the strategy of hedging. So we buy energy in advance to, you know, sort of smoothen all the possible peaks and discrepancies on the market. But of course, if we want to be competitive, then we need to look at the price of, let's say, 10, maximum 12 euro cents. If we are more expensive than that, it would be very difficult to be competing with other countries. So it really depends also on the governmental policy, how they want to support the energy prices. So it's about energy, it's about connectivity, and it's about willingness to invest in this particular region. It's about the companies willing to put money and to undertake certain risk. And I don't think it's primarily about the governmental support. There needs to be a business case that just flies by itself, and that it makes sense.
Fantastic. Who else would like to take that one?
No, but it's a combination of factors, as Milos said. Basically, like investors usually look at total cost of ownership. So that will be a mixture of your colocation price that you need to pay and energy prices, the two major components of actually being located in a data center. And then at the same time, it's also like a public support, like permitting. How quickly can you build? That builds your case, because like in case you have to delay and you have to, how do you say, count on your investment only being live in like 2 to 3 years instead of somewhere faster in, like, let's say, Poland or Romania, that can make a difference and influence whether you go to one or the other. So this is where government support and push can be helpful, on top of what Milos said, which is helping with an energy price, which is one of the key components of the total cost of ownership.
Martin or Lars, anything to add to that?
I mean, another aspect which is maybe not as important as the energy cost is also then taxes. So we've seen that prioritization of locations are also done in that regard. So in some of the, let's say, flat D markets, data centers are lobbying strongly that they are exempt from energy tax. And that can also become an important factor. And I don't know, when we are doing plot assessment, sometimes also the temperature or the regulation when it comes to heat reusage are also becoming relevant. So the list of decision criteria is endless, but I guess Milos phrased it quite well. The most important one is the energy cost. If that is competitive, then it opens the door for many of the data centers to come in.
Just last comment, but what is for sure going for Czechia is its positioning and very good connection toward the rest of the Europe. That's like the key advantage, and if everything else can be sorted from price, TCO perspective, permitting perspective, it has no reason to not be one of the key Eastern European hubs from our perspective.
Fibre often gets forgotten about in all these conversations. We still, as an industry, tend to silo data centres and the building part of it away from all the other things. It's like talking about a motorway service station without the road going to it. So certainly from everything I see, in terms of that fibre and that connectivity and the speeds, very well placed.
Yeah. Maybe I would just add also one more point, and I hope that Milos will also agree, that the Czech Republic has definitely one weakness, and that is the permitting system. We know how difficult the entire administration around getting permits for any type of infrastructure is, and that impacts also the data center space. So if we want to give a message to our government in the Czech Republic, it is definitely to still make some progress in terms of that process and to make it easier for potential investors to come and actually deploy.
I can only agree because that's also on the agenda of the association, and why we are more positive than, for example, a year ago is that now AI is one of the main topics, and without data centers there will be no AI so far. And so considering that AI is now personal agenda for the Prime Minister, for the new Prime Minister, that's also a sign for us to push harder. And I know that it's not possible to change the decades of traditional bureaucracy in 1 year, but without trying we will never reach it. So yeah, prices, I agree, we will never have prices of Finland, for example, maybe not even of Madrid, but considering that we are naturally a heart of Europe, of Central Europe, right? Also considering that the very long decades of interconnecting as, let's say, communist bloc, right? We have already some good connectivity. We don't need to reinvent something. Here, again, I would say that good connection, we always had a good connection, like east-west. North-south is still a question, but it's not only for us, it's a big question for Germany, for example, still, and they are struggling. So if we will figure out maybe how to connect like our region, and then we will be like pioneers in this, and we will actually help the whole Europe.
That sounds amazing. Well, we've run over the 30 minutes, so what I'm going to do is quickly ask each of you to give, if you were talking to an investor directly now, trying to sell Czech Republic, as to why that money should be invested there as opposed to elsewhere in the region, what would you tell them? I'm going to start with Lars.
Well, if I'm talking to an investor, and I'm actually talking to a lot of investors, I would say that it's probably the market maturity that makes this stand out. So it became clear that we will most likely see hyperscalers moving into the market, and that will have a network effect of the whole market moving on. So if I compare this to some of the other markets, I guess from a risk return perspective, it's a little bit on the higher side, but it really shows a tangible upside. So I think honestly it's interesting.
Fantastic. And then Milos, CRA?
Well, it was already mentioned, but this is a stable and well-matured market with a solid infrastructure, and of course, strategically located close to Germany, Poland, Austria, very center, location in Europe. So, and then experience of many companies doing the business well. So that's it.
Martin?
I would probably repeat some of the points. Indeed, good geographic connection or location allowing for good connection to the FLAP-D hubs. Good energy infrastructure, but potentially a little orange flag for the investors to be mindful of the administrative burdens that are still a pain point for the market.
And Milos M.
So I'm gonna be repeating everything, but I have one point that is unique from my perspective. It's a lot of untapped potential also from domestic standpoint. There is cloud adoption is still yet to grow to the levels of Western Europe or Nordics. For example, currently it's around 40%, like 45. So there is still room to get even more customers and for the market to mature and grow from that perspective, which is a very positive sign of the market. And when the ecosystem develops because of the regions, because of market entrance, this will come to fruition, and so there's a lot of untapped potential.
Really good point. Quite often that's another thing that gets overlooked is that where you are at a certain domestic level in terms of adoption. So really, really good point. And if Zeni?
Okay, it's privileged to be the last one, just saying that I agree with everybody. I would just maybe also mention our people, like professionals. We have a very high professional level. We have many universities that are in top 50 European universities, so it's very high standard. We have not only higher education, but also secondary education, so it's not only brains but also hands. And we have a big story of manufacturing, so we can provide a lot of minds, a lot of space, a lot of hands, a lot of experience, and that's what I want to say, that's the moment. It's not to be missed, definitely.
Thank you all so much for sharing your expert insight with us all. It's been a real privilege talking to all of you, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you all in person in a couple of weeks in Vienna. I know how busy you all are, so we really, really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with us, and I've learned a huge amount. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you very much, Nicola.